Hello! Good evening! I think I'm live. And I think it worked. And everything. But I'm going to need confirmation that I'm live. Hello, Joe. Hello, Wayne. Hello, Just Weird Fun. Hello, Kevin. And Mike. And the other Wayne. And Simon. And everybody else. How are ya? Good Lord. I think I might have actually sussed out how to do this shite. Right. How is everybody? I was just over on the Beard 16. He was turning beads. He was doing a great job on that. Having a few little tricky issues with his mandrel. But as I said, stuff like that happens on lives. It's a pain. And boy, doesn't it happen to me. Okay, so I didn't make myself a cup of tea, but hey ho, we'll get on with it. So, before we get started, just a couple of bits I want to update you with. It's quite lots happen. Oh, that hurt in my ear. Oh, by the way, I have Wormier Leona this evening. Hi, Leona. She just turned something on. She just turned something on her computer, and it was quite loud. I think it broke my eardrum actually, but it's okay. I've got another one. So a good bit's happened since I last spoke to you. The main thing is I did my bus and truck driver's theory test, and I passed. Yay! So I now have the certification, yeah, that's the right word, to go and get my provisional license, which I went to do today, but they kindly reminded me that I have to get a medical before they'll give me that paperwork and stuff. So I'm doing that Thursday. I've got to go and get just a basic medical to say that I'm not going to drop dead behind the wheel of a truck or bus, and take it to them, and then they're going to give me the provisional license, and then I can start my bus and truck driving lessons. Which is for the Creator Bus. Yes, I have a name for it now. The Creator Bus or Creator Truck, depending on how things work out legally when it comes to insurance and stuff like that. I really want it to be a bus, but if that's not possible, then we'll have to go down the truck route. But that's going. I have been told since we did the show on Makers International on Sunday that there is now a GoFundMe running for me, which is a very strange thing for me to say. I don't normally do that kind of thing, but as I said on Makers International, it's time to put my big boy pants on and accept any kind of help that people are willing to give me, because this is a dream that I've had and I need to be able to do it, and I'm just not in the position to be able to do it on my own. So any help I get from people, thank you very much. So there is a GoFundMe page. If you want to just go over and stick $1 or €1 or whatever on that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. I also have a new Patreon page. The old one is still running. The Temple Boy Turnings one is still running. I'm going to close that down probably tomorrow. There's a new one set up, and there's a whole load of new tiers on that, and they're all banana tiers. I am getting a bit of help with that page, which is great. So yeah, a lot of banana stages that you can go. So it just starts off at your basic banana, I think, isn't that right, Leona? And you work your way all the way up to top banana, isn't it? Uh-oh, I might have lost Leona. Oh no. Have I? I think I have. Leona. Oh, there we go. Sorry, you broke up there for a second. Yeah, okay. Sorry, technology and all that. Yes, so there's mini bananas, top bananas, banana splits, and all sorts of banana stages. Mike, thank you so much for the super chat. And that's kind of a good segue into the other thing that I want to mention. All the super chats, as you all know, I've told you, are all going towards the creator bus as well. Everything that this show or anything that I make generates is all going towards the creator bus. That's all I'm focused on at the moment. It's going to fund itself, hopefully. So, super chats. When people give me super chats in future, I'm going to probably have it set up for the next show. There's going to be like a reward wheel over here in the back for a bit of fun. And when I get a super chat, depending on the level of super chat I get, I'm going to spin the wheel and there's going to be some fun bits and pieces on it. So it's just to put a bit of fun into the show. So whenever I get a super chat, whatever tier of super chat I get, there'll be like levels of prizes or challenges or whatever, you know, so that kind of thing. I'm still working it out, but that's what I'm going to do just for a bit of fun. That's it. That's all the housekeeping, I think. Yeah. Patreon, super chat, creator bus is a go. So, hello everybody. Good to see that we have. I've got a new counter here. 20 is it? Watching? Very good. Right. Excellent. Let's do this. Let me move to camera 3 for a second. Just there. Hello. Just while I move this camera down here and I don't make you dizzy. Okay, just going to do a quick test. Leona, how's the feed now? Is it still pants? Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, I just thanked him for that. That's excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have the leftover piece of wood from doing the coasters. If you remember, we did the coasters last Tuesday. This is a turn along with me, so if you've got your lathe next to you and you want to join in, go ahead and join in. It's on the faceplate already. I didn't take it off the faceplate. And what we're going to do with this piece of wood, let me give you a measurement just so you know how big it is. At the moment it is 100 mil, which is roughly 4 inches round, by the amount we have to work with, because I marked it when we did our last live with how long the screws are. To work with, we've got about 50 mil, which is about 2 inches. I'm going to just screw that onto the spindle on the lathe. And as I said before, I have nylon spacers here, white nylon spacers. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more for you so that you can see those spacers. So yeah, I have these nylon spacers because my thread is longer than the thread in the faceplate, and I don't want it kind of screwing into the back of the piece of wood and damaging the back of the piece of wood. So I've just got these spacers on. I've got one glued to the actual spindle too, which is to stop the chuck from binding on it. So that's always a handy little tip for you. Thank you, Leona, for putting the link up there for the GoFundMe. Right. So to start with, we are going to turn just a regular tea light holder. A lot of starters, beginners in wood turning would do these little projects. I have these little, let me change the camera to camera 5. There you go, that's better. I have these little brass inserts. They're big enough to hold the tea light. If none of you know what a tea light is, they're pretty universal. They're just a wax candle in a little foil cup. And they give you, let me see how long these burn for. Say on the packet, 8 hours of burn time. And they fit nice and loose in the brass cup. Some people put these straight into the wood because of they've got a metal foil around them. It's okay for personal use. I've always said it's okay for personal use, but I would suggest that if you're going to be making these to sell in the future, to use the brass cups, because you're covering yourself for any wax that's dripping down or any stuff that's likely to catch fire, is not going to be touching the wood. They don't tend to get hot down the side when they're in the wood, but just to cover yourselves, if you sell them with the brass inserts, and tell people that it's their own responsibility to keep an eye on them, because fire burns stuff, funny enough, if you leave it alone. So yeah, we're going to use the insert for this evening. The candles are a bit taller than the insert, but that's okay. You can use silver foil too. I know people that line the inside with a few layers of silver foil. That does kind of the same thing too. So you're all welcome. Let's do this. We're just going to make a simple tea light holder from this piece of very sported beech. Any questions, Leona? Okay, Leona has screen issues, so I shall look at the chat here. Hi Martin, we've got Martin's joined us. Hi Daniel, Huey, Glenn Senior has joined us. Hi Glenn. I think I've said hello to everybody else, and I did say thank you so much to Mike for the super chat. That is going to help loadsly. Okay, right, so we are going to start just roughly shaping this. We've got this screwed onto a faceplate using wood screws, not plasterboard screws or any of those easily breaky screws. They're good strong screws, and because they're into end grain and because it's punky wood, we've used a longer screw for holding it onto the faceplate. You can use, as I said last week, you can use hot glue to kind of add to the strength if you want. If you don't have a faceplate, you can do this between centres and then cut off the bottom and sand it afterwards if you need to. But most people, most beginners will have a faceplate with their lathe. Is the sound okay, guys? I just want to make sure that sound is good, picture's good before I start doing the demo. Good, all good. All right, here we go then. So piece of sported beech, 100mm round, 4 inches round, and we've got about 50mm to play with, which is 2 inches before we hit the top of the screws. So and we don't want to do that because that hurts. Right, the depth of our brass insert is, it's about 10mm that goes into the wood, and then you've got this like brass lip that's supposed to sit on the top. Now what I do is I tend to countersink those in as well, so they sit nicely in the top and you've got a nice flush top, so we'll work on that as well. Let's do it. Nice simple project for learning how to use your spindle gouge. That's what we're going to use. Using our 3/8 spindle gouge. I have a fingernail grind on that. It's been freshly sharpened today. There you go. I will go through sharpening probably the next, if not the next live, then the live after. So here goes. We've got our tool rest set just below the centre of the spindle height. Let me find my shield. Thanks to Wayne the woodturner, by the way. Thank you, Wayne, for messaging and just reminding me about now I'm new to kind of the teaching side of things, you know, this is a new thing that I'm doing, so if I miss certain things and the more seasoned guys that are watching notice it, I do appreciate being told about it. Excuse me a sec, just put the shield on. I failed to mention riding the bevel and the bevels on the tools last week, so I'll concentrate on that this week. So thanks for that, Wayne. Appreciate any help that I can get. It's hard to remember everything. I was also, when I watched back on the video, I was also calling the headstock the tailstock and the tailstock the headstock as well, I realised. Oh well. I am in the middle of editing that first video, by the way, and I am going to put it up without all the little mistakes and things, just to make it more watchable for anybody that comes back and watches it. Here goes then. We're just going to get a basic shape to start with. We're just going to dome the top round. We're probably going to keep most of the size of it. Maybe take it down a little bit to get a nicer cut, but let's going quite fast because I know that it's roughly true. It's swollen a little bit since last week, so it does need truing up again. Wood moves, it always moves, especially here in Ireland. It's a very damp place. I'm spinning at about no revs in it, a second, a minute apparently. It's not, yeah. Oh, there we go. I'm going 1600. It just needed a bit of a knock. So I'm just gonna tidy up the side and get it true again. Just one pass near enough does that. Let me zoom in for you so you can see more. Oh, no, don't do that. Zoom. Now we can move. There we go. Okay. Alright, so we're near enough true again at the front. Not worried about the back here because, like I said, that's where our screws are. We're just going to round off the top. I'm going to see if I can jump to the top camera and I'm going to bring this other camera around so that you can see the tool. Thanks, Leona. Apparently, these Pro Edges become good camera mounts as well. Don't say it, Leona. Oh, that's okay. Alright, that's a better, I think that's a better view for seeing the tool. Okay, so we're going to come down. We're holding our tool way down with the handle. Again, we're going to be in close to it. The handles on this spindle gouge are a little bit shorter, but we want to try and anchor it against our body. We're going to anchor the tool. We're going to have a good grip on it with our left hand if you're right-handed. It's going to be the other way if you're left-handed. You're going to start right in the bevel. The bevel is... Oh, what tool am I on? Ah, hold on. I forgot to jump to the wrong... Ah, I thought I was on a different... there we are. That's better. So this is your bevel. This is the edge that you've ground down to form the cutting edge. The bevel is this angled part just here. And you're going to be putting that against the piece of wood to start with. It's spinning. Handle down. Hand on top. Bit of pressure on the tool wrist. Get the bevel riding. It's not going to cut. You can run that bevel up and down that piece of wood and nothing will happen until you do a little twist of your wrist and you get the cutting edge just starting to cut, and that's when it will start cutting. I just got a warning on my computer there a second. I just want to check that. Just want to check what the warning was on my computer, that nothing's going to turn off. Oh, that's okay. It's just telling me that my OneDrive will be frozen. Alright, so we're riding our bevel, twisting the cutting edge into the piece, and then moving round. And we're basically drawing the shape that we want to make. I'll move to the top camera so that you can see that from the top. You okay, Leona? You sound very stressed there. So we're just drawing the shape that we want. Just going to dome the end for now. And it's all just getting the bevel riding and then twisting the tool until the cutting blade cuts. And the other cut you can use is you can lay the tool down on its side and you can use the flat part of the cutting edge, get it cutting, and you can bring that round. Okay, Liana? Okay. I've lost my earworm for a while. So there you go, just gentle strokes, bringing it in, following around the angle. And we're stepping into it. Now with the shorter blade, with the shorter handle, sorry, let me say, go back to here again. With the shorter handle, sometimes you will find the tool, you'll be tempted to pull the tool around. Try and keep with it as much as you can, but sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you can't get right in there and step right in. Turn your lathe off before you move the tool rest. You want to keep the tool rest in as close to the piece as you can. If you are coming around the front, then angle your tool rest to accommodate for your tool. So again, get the bevel rubbing, anchor, bevel, and just slowly bring the tool round to the shape that you want. There you go. And again, we can use the pull cut just to clean up the front. Pull the tool back just to clean up that front face. And you can draw around backwards as well on the pull cut. Always anchoring the tool so it's not swaying around. Excuse me. Sorry, I was just watching the chat there because making sure I wasn't missing anything. Now we're getting a good cut on that. Just going to clean it up a bit more. Change to the other camera for you so you can watch that. Get our tool flat, spine facing towards the camera, towards you. Tilt it back slightly clockwise until the front blade is touching on the piece and follow the shape round. I said last week I wanted to talk about shape a little bit. I did it myself when I was starting out. I made things very blocky. Wall thicknesses were very thick. Shape was very square. I think it's a natural thing. Oh, that's really annoying tapping on there. It's a natural thing to kind of just work on your technique rather than shape. But I think if you work on the two together, you'll start forming nice, pleasing to the eye pieces a lot sooner than if you just concentrate on technique alone. Try and work on shape and how you want to kind of make things look. So what I'm going to do with this is, at the moment, it just looks like one of those. It just looks like one of those gas cylinders that you see for camping gas. Just a round dome. It's not very pleasing. I mean, yes, when you sand that up, it will be a nice piece of wood, but it doesn't have any real characteristics. My phone's not ringing. Excuse me. is my phone not ringing? I'll call you back. I'm sorry. So, yes, shape. Leona, she's awful stressed. Don't be stressed, lovey. It's fine. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. Okay, so, as I was saying, we're going to put a little bit of character into this. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to come round the top and I'm going to do a bit of a bead. Okay, a bead is an external bump in the wood is the best way to describe it, and a cove is an internal bump in the wood. It can be a big bead or it can be a small bead. It could be a huge cove or a tiny little cove. But that's basically the best way to describe it. We're going to put a bead just after where it starts transitioning from square to round here. And it's probably going to be about just over 5 mil. Okay, so the best way to do it when we are learning doing a bead is we'll roughly find the center point of where our bead's going to be. We'll draw a circle around, put it around the whole piece. And we'll just use we're going to continue to use the gouge. And we're just going to work away from that center line around, as if you're just doing kind of a semicircle, a bead. Okay, so you're going to start, again, you're going to just ride the bevel. This will be just a slightly bit more advanced, but again, you can experiment with shape and things with these beads and coves. But I wanted to add something a little bit more advanced for the beginner. So you're just going to start at the line, and you're just going to turn your wrist just in slightly. I think that's probably a bit bright, isn't it? Can't see that. Let me move this camera back over here. Nope, wrong one. Okay. So we're just going to form a bead. So I'm starting at the line in the center, and I'm just going to roll down, just like that. And that's already formed a small bead, a shallow bead. I can make that a bit deeper just by cutting in a bit deeper at the bottom. And again, the other side. So we have a bead there now. Don't worry about the pencil line, that will sand off later. And the trick of having a nice bead is that it's of equal size, both sides of your center line. If you have one side larger than the other, your bead's going to look a little bit odd. Okay, and then the transition on pieces is just as important too. So where we've got the bead finishing there, we've got obviously a big lump sticking out the top here. We can bring our dome just in nicely to meet the bottom of that. So in theory we've formed kind of a bead edge to our dome too. And again, underneath that we can do maybe a cove. And as I said, a cove is a dip in the road rather than the speed bump that we've just done. So we're going to cut in a little bit deeper. Move with our hips. Just form a cove underneath that bead that we've just done. We can round off the bead just slightly now that we've got room. And then we can decide how we're going to finish the whole thing then. I think we'll just have a bigger cove. And you can have as much fun with these tea lights as you want. You can make them whatever shape you want. And then we'll bring it in straight down here. There you go, it's giving it a little bit of shape. It's made it a little bit different. Go left-handed just to clean this up. We had a discussion with Chris Cute last week. He was asking if you need to be ambidextrous. It does help to practice using your left hand. And there we go. It's a simple shaped tea light holder. We're going to be parting it off just here. It's good cuts on it, ready for sanding. But what we need to do now is we need to come around the front, and we need to start working on cutting in our brass plate that's going to sit in the top there. So there's a couple of ways of getting the right size that you want. If you have a caliper, I would suggest, if you are a beginner, you can buy cheap vernier calipers like this. You can pick them up. I think an expensive set is about 25-30 euro or pounds, and you can pick up a cheaper one, which is like this. I think I got that for about a £5. It does the same job, it's just not got as good a mechanism and stuff on it, and you know, but it still does the same job. It's just made of more flimsier metal, but if you take your time with it, it will last just as long as this one. And you can use that to size the hole that you need to turn in the top, just like so. Fix that off, and then you can use that to mark where you are. We're going to work in a way that we haven't got one of these, that we're a complete beginner and we don't own one of these. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way with a ruler. Let's take your piece, measure the width that you need to turn out. That's 40 millimeters, or in old money, that's about 2 3/4, is it about, I think, or in around there. No, 1 3/4 inches, sorry. Alright, so we're going to go with 40 mil. Set up your tool rest so it's facing around the front of the piece, just below centre. And we're going to find our centre point with our pencil. So you can turn the lathe on, and you're just going to touch the pencil in the very centre and create a dot, just like that. There is a dot there, you might not be able to see it, but there is a dot. Then we're going to take our ruler, and because our diameter is 40 mil, it means our radius is 20 mil, half of it. And we're going to measure from that centre mark 20 millimeters, just like that, to the left of the centre. And then we're going to put our pencil on there again, and you can do it with the lathe on, or if you're not too sure and you think you're going to slip, you can just hold the pencil there and just spin it by hand, and that's going to give you the size that you need to turn out. That's the hole that you need to turn out. So you don't need all the fancy calipers and stuff like that. They do help later on for more intricate stuff. Another way you could do it is you could find your centre mark, and you can mark 20 millimeters on your compass and put the point in your centre line, and you can draw a circle round with the compass too. So that's a couple of ways of doing that. Now we're going to hollow it out. We need to know how deep we're going to go. We said that it's 10 mil deep, I think, about 11 mil deep into the wood. Again, if you don't have a caliper, you can take I got one up here. If you buy a pack of these lolly sticks, you can pick these up from Mr. Price or any dollar store or pound store, whatever, very cheap. Cut the round part off the end with a pair of scissors. And you can use these as really cool marking sticks, or story sticks as people like to call them. And you mark the depth that you need to go onto the lolly stick. There you go. That's how deep we need to go. And as we're turning it, we're just going to hold the lolly stick in. That's how deep we're going to go. Okay, next tool we're going to use is a parting tool. That's the diamond parting tool, if you remember from last week. Just going to take this live center out of here because I like my elbows the way they are. Okay, any questions so far before we do this, Leona? Okay. I will explain sanding, yes. Julie, was that? Yes, no problem at all. Okay, when we're setting up our parting tool to use it on this, we want to hold the parting tool on the tool rest, and we want it to be on the center spot that you've just drawn with the pencil. So the center of your cutting blade, the pinnacle of the diamond, needs to be set to the center of your mark. And as I said last week, you want the tool rest just slightly back from the piece because there's a lot of blade, a lot of bevel that comes back, and it can slip off the front of the tool rest, so you want to make sure that you're not going to be slipping. I'm going to turn the lathe on. Still running at about 1600. We're going to bring the parting tool in, and we're going to slightly angle it. Not going to go straight in, we're going to just slightly angle it, and we're going to just start touching on the piece, and we're going to stay back from our mark that we've just done by about 1 or 2 mil, and we're just going to slowly move the parting tool in. Don't go too far. Don't forget you've got your lolly stick. And then we're going to move across, and we're going to do the same again, and just slowly take away the wood all the way to the center. Like so. I'm going to change the camera angle to the top now in a second so you can watch how that's done. And as you can see, you can use the parting tool, you can get it to the center. Don't go over to the right hand side of your center mark, because what's going to happen is, because it's spinning, it's not going to cut properly. It might do because it's a parting tool, but you want to stay to the left of that center point at all time when you're doing your cuts, okay? And what you can do is you can actually bring your tool along and use it as a little mini scraper. We're leaving the line. Don't take away the line yet. Okay, let me just change that to a different angle for you from the top. Oh, hello. That's me. Okay. So this is our lolly stick. We have our mark on it. Nowhere near it yet, the depth that we need to be. So again, we're going to put our parting tool into our first point. I'm going to go in some more. And again, work our way across. Trying to keep the same depth with each push that you do. And check the depth with your lolly stick again. Okay, we've got to go about the same depth again as we just did. Straight in. Work our way across. Sorry, were you talking to me, Leona? Were you? There we go. Check our depth again. As you can see, we're almost there. About another 2 mil. And we're going to get our depth right before we worry about getting our width or our diameter. Go in another couple of millimeters. Slowly clean this up. And that's what happens when you go too far over. I'll show you again. It flips the tool up. You want to stay to the left of that centre mark all the time. There we go. Tiny little bit more. And the more confident you get with the tool, the quicker you're going to get at doing that. There we go, and we're at the right depth there. Change the camera back to there. No one else is buffering. There's no problems with it. I've lost Leona again. Maybe Leona's having issues her end. Oh, maybe it's me. Hello. Okay, so as you can see, we're almost there. We're about pencil thickness too wide. It's just starting to sit in the top there, but we just need to take that just shade right up to the pencil line now. So we're just going to do that now. Very carefully get the tool cutting on its bevel, on its cutting edge, and we're just going to go straight in, straight as we can go, all the way down to our depth mark, just like that. Don't try and put these in when it's spinning, because if you put these in when they're spinning, they have a sharp edge on them, and they're just basically a spinning saw. So that's quite tight there. Just needs cleaning up at the bottom. I'll show you just here. Still got a little bit to go. It's just a little bit too wide at the bottom, narrow at the bottom. But as I said, if you remember, I want the top of this to go flush into the piece. So once I get it the right width, I'm just going to take a little bit more off at the bottom. We know it's all right at the top because it's going in. Just at the base of it, I need to just make it a little bit wider. Just like that. There you go. That's all the way down there. So now that that's flush sitting on top of the piece, I want it so that the top of the brass is flush with the top of the wood. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw all the way around the outside ring, like so. So I've just drawn all the way around the ring like so. And when I pull this out, this is where you find that it doesn't pull back out. There you go. It gives me a ring to work to so that I can make the top of this flush with the top of the wood. I've only got to go in probably be about 1/2 millimeter, not even that. So, and I'm only going to go to the line because obviously the line thickness from the edge of that ring. So we're just going to go back in again. Excuse me. And just take out that amount Now if you go too far, don't worry about it. It's okay, because you can always turn the top of, you can turn the wood down to the top of it, you know, your dome. So don't panic. Just try that. Now obviously, because I've gone down a little bit at the top, I need to go down the same amount at the bottom, because we're going to go a little bit deeper now. So I need to just go that much at the bottom too. Like so. Clean it out, and we'll just see how that sits in there. Okay, that's lovely. That's sitting in there perfect. Now I can show you from the side angle. We're all in the side angle. There you go. So that's nice and flush with the top. Can't see any of it sticking out. And that is our brass dish put in there. Now some people glue those in. I don't tend to glue them in because then they can be taken out and cleaned. If the wax and stuff gets into it, you can pop them out. I don't know. And not only that, they can be if you're using them for yourself, they can be reused. And if you get bored with the shape, you can pop them out and you can change it a new one. So that's nice. It just sits in there. So we're just going to sand that now. We don't need to sand the inside of that, because obviously we've got our brass dish going in there, so it's only the outside we need to sand. I don't know if Leona's there anymore. Oh yeah, good. You're having testicle issues. Oh, I am. Okay, it's my fault. It's always my fault. I've put you in a different pocket now, Leona. So. Okay, so now we're going to sand. Who was it? It was Julie that was asking about sanding, was it? Okay, so using cheap sandpaper. Cheap sandpaper does work, but you have to you have to work out the grits to suit yourself, because they don't necessarily. If you're watching someone online and they're telling you, I don't know, start at 100 grit, go to 120, go to 180, go to 240, and do it that way, those grits are probably the more expensive sandpapers, and they're not the same as the cheaper ones you get in the pound and dollar stores, because they're just knocked out really quick. They don't, they're not expecting professionals to be using that stuff. So work it out yourself. Start with the smallest paper and work the way up, and you will get used to it. I'm just sorting my sandpaper out here, if you're just wondering what I'm doing over here. I have different types of sandpaper that I just want to show folks. Okay. Right. I think that. Right. I'll just get the Abranet as well, just to show you. I've got all sorts of stuff here. Right. So the cheaper sandpapers are these ones. If you go for a coloured sandpaper, chances are that the dyes that they've put on that sandpaper are going to come off on your workpiece. That happens a lot, and it's really, really annoying, especially if you're trying to get a nice finish. The dyes in the cheap sandpaper can definitely come off on your workpiece. And don't be fooled by the fact that they've got the matting on the back for you to use on your sanders, orbital sanders, and all your mechanical sanders and stuff. It still can be crap sandpaper on it. they spend more on that stuff than they do on the actual sandpaper. This is a slightly more expensive one. These are a proper orbital sanding discs I bought. They're quite a well-known make. These are the Parkside ones. They can be on the cheaper side, but I found they're quite good sandpaper for the lower budget. And you've got Abranet, is it? Yeah, Abranet sandpaper. They are the really good quality sandpaper because you can knock them out and clean them, and they seem to last quite a while, and their grits are quite good. So yeah, quality of sandpaper really does matter. But I'm just gonna use all the ones that I've got here just to show you the different sanding. You can sand with them all, but you've just got to be a little bit more patient. You want to sand at around about, ideally you want to sand at about 200 or 300, but my lathe doesn't go 200 or 300, unfortunately. The slowest my lathe goes is just under 500, so that's what we're going to do. And remember, we've got a lip here that we've cut out at the front. We don't want to hold the sandpaper on there. We just want to lightly touch it and then come back round, because if we sand that away, then our brass is going to be sticking up again. Okay, I mean, we can turn it down again once we've sanded it. It's not a problem. And you're just going to let the sandpaper do the work. You don't have to push hard. The harder you push, the hotter your workpiece is going to get, and the more of the abrasive you're going to knock off of the paper as well. Especially this wood is quite soft, so that I don't have to push that hard. Now, if you want to get into beads and coves when you're sanding, fold your paper in half and use the spine that you form to just roll in and out of your beads and coves, and you'll find that it gets in there nicely. Again, you can come up here. I don't know if that's showing on the camera. You can see there's a pink line forming inside that bead, and that's the dye that's come off the sandpaper there, look. I'll sand that off in a second with the higher quality paper, but like that, I just wanted to show you that can happen. And if you don't notice it and you go putting your finish on it, then you end up with a pink line on your workpiece, and it just looks pants. There you go, you've got pink's just coming off. That's the cheaper sandpaper. The abrasive just rubs off, it doesn't hold on to the paper at all. I got those sandpapers with a really cheap orbital sander that I bought, and they were in the kit. And they're rubbish. Look, it's actually colouring it red. Probably can't see that. So they're great for colouring in your workpieces if you want to use that crap, but we won't. Now this is a slightly different one, the same grit again. This is a 120 grit, but it's a slightly better paper. It's a white paper. Keep the sandpaper moving too when you're sanding, so that you're not on the same spot and you're just cutting the lines, the radial lines in the same place. If you move it side to side, it's going to be a lot better finish. I'm just trying to sand that pencil line off at the moment and get rid of the pink. Try and get rid of the pink line out of this. Some people would like the pink line, but I don't. Now, when it comes to health and safety and looking after your lungs, you should by rights have some kind of extraction. The minimum you could have is you could get a hoover, a cheap hoover from a second-hand shop, and you could just hold the spout, where's mine? Just hold the spout there, just like this, and you can, let me turn it on. Hi Joy, thanks for joining. And as you sand, you just, Joy or, oh, okay, yeah, Joy. Yes, Voodoo, you can use the foam sanding blocks. The only thing I found with those is, you get a lot of people use those, but the only thing I find with those is you tend to push a lot harder with them because you think you're not sanding with them. Well, I do anyway, and they break apart or you wear them out quick. I like to feel the shape of the piece by using the sandpaper, to be honest with you. Turn that off and just have a look at it. So we've got just one little point there that's not where the pencil's not coming off, so we can just give that a little light rub, because it's just, that's where I started the pencil muck and drew the little, there we go. So that's sanded to 120. It's a really spalted bit of wood, so I'm not worried. I'm just demonstrating shape and technique. I'm not super worried about the finish I'm going to get. It's quite spalted. If I really wanted to worry about this, I'd cover it with super glue or CA glue, and I'd fill in all the voids and I'd let it dry, and then I'd sand it back again, and if there was more voids I'd do the same again. I don't have time to be doing that this evening, but going through the sanding, that's sanded to 120. We're going to go to 180 now. We're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Where's my 180? Thought I just found one. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of 180 Abranet here. So again, I'm not going right to the front lip where the... I'm just a light touch. Any other questions, Fiona? The feed okay? Jolly good. Those M&Ms sound nice. What ones are they? The blue one, honeycomb. Honeycomb. Yeah, I don't like those ones. Rice? I thought they were honeycomb. Alright. Ew. I don't like those. You can keep them. I don't eat sweets now anyway. Because my earworm has a go at me when I eat sweets on live feeds, because all she can hear is... So boiled sweet chunks. Okay, so there you go. That should be 180. It's actually starting to shine now, in the bits that aren't punky anyway. Okay, go from 180. I'm gonna jump to 240 from 180. I haven't got the next one up. What is it from 180 then? It goes to 2. It is 240, isn't it? Yeah. There's not one between that, is there? No. It's okay. Now this is you'll see that this sands a lot better. This is the more high quality sandpaper that you can get, and as you can probably see that it's throwing off a lot more sawdust. You get some sandpapers that you think is good, and when you put it to the wood, nothing happens. It just scoots over the top and gets warm and burns your hand. But you don't have to push hard. With a good sandpaper, you don't have to push hard. There we go. Now, the other thing you've got to remember when you're sanding a bead is don't hold it on the top of the bead for too long. Always kind of go round the shape of the bead, because what will happen is you'll get a flat spot on the top of your bead and it just won't look right. Unless you want a flat top bead, of course. It's entirely up to you, it's your piece. There we go. As I say, I'm not spending super amounts of time sanding. Okay, so we've got to 240 there. Now you've got an option. I just want to check that this still sinks into the top, that I haven't sanded too much away, and it does. That's good. Now you've got a choice when you get to 240. If you're a new wood turner, you probably won't have Yorkshire grit. Yorkshire grit is an abrasive paste. I've mentioned it many times before. I would suggest that you get it because it saves on a lot of sanding. Because normally what you'd go from is 240 to 320, then to 400, and then you'd apply your finishes and stuff like that. It's a lot more sanding, a lot more time consuming. I'm only going to go to 240, and then I'm going to get sanding sealer. There are two types of sanding sealer that I have. I have, well, I thought I had, yes, there's the other one, spray type, and I've got the other type. I've got the chestnut sanding sealers. This is the wipe-on acrylic sanding sealer, and this is the spray type sanding sealer, and then this is the cellulose sanding sealer. The difference between those are depending on what finish you're going to be putting on top of them, or if you're going to be colouring. So your acrylic would be water-based. So any water-based finishes and stuff like that you'd be putting on the top. You can put the other type on it as well, but they tend to say water-based with the acrylic. And then your cellulose is spirit-based. I'm going to use cellulose because the cellulose tends to dry a lot quicker than the acrylic, because obviously it's spirits in it and the spirit evaporates. So you're just going to take a rag and you're going to just, now you can water this down, I haven't done, and you can just rub it onto your workpiece. And it's normally this time when you start seeing the wood starting to look pretty. You can put it inside as well if you want, but you know, we're not really that worried. Wow, those M&Ms sound really nice. So you just rub the sanding sealer in. Make sure it gets in all the little nooks and crannies. And what this does is, not only does it seal the wood ready for any finishes and stuff that you're putting into it, but it also raises the grain of the wood. And the reason you want to raise the grain is because you want to get as best finish as possible. And if you raise the grain, you can then go back to either the last sandpaper that you used, which in this case was 240, or you can go to the Yorkshire grit, which is what I'm going to be using. And the Yorkshire grit, as I said, is an abrasive paste that works like a liquid sandpaper. And it starts at 240 and it finishes so, Mr. Glenn Senior, says the manufacturer of the stuff, to around about 1,000 grit, which tends to be a good finish. There we go. We'll just let that dry for a little while. If there is any questions, now is the time to ask while I'm waiting for that to dry off. Thank you, Leona, for putting the link up. Leona's put a link for Yorkshire Grit up there if you don't have any and you are a beginner. There is, oh, sorry. Melamine sealer. To be honest with you, I've never used it. If it's a sealer and it seals wood, I don't see why not. Yes, it's yeah, it's a very punky wood, but I mean, that's dry now, and as I said, I can feel the grain on that now. You can see it's very sported. I'm not going to get a supersonic finish on this, but that's not what tonight is about, getting a super finish. So we're going to go with some Yorkshire Grit now. Yorkshire Grit, let me take the lid off there. Yorkshire Grit comes in a tub like this. Oh, wrong camera. It's a black tub. It doesn't come with a product saver. I make those and put them in. It just stops you from getting the grit and rubbish in them. And then there is microfine as well, which I have up here. The microfine goes from 1,000 up to, I'm not sure what, 2,000 is it? I'm not sure. But that's the microfine, so that goes even finer than the original. But the original is what we're going to use here. You don't need much. Turn that hoover off. You rub it on by hand to start with. That's about all I'm going to need for that. And what I tend to do is I just get a last little bit onto my towel before I start the machine. Put it back over there. And use the same paper towel as you use for applying the grit. And you turn on your lathe at the low speed that you were using for when you were originally sanding, and you literally just use it like sandpaper, except you're using your paper towel. Don't use a cloth. Do not use rags or cloths unless say there are the proper safety cloths that rip, because what will happen is if you're using a cloth and it wraps around this spindle, it's going to grab it and it's going to pull your hand into the spindle as well. So do not use cloths or old t-shirts or rags, tea towels or washcloths. Don't use any of that. Go down, buy yourself some cheap kitchen roll, kitchen paper, and use that, because if that gets caught in this, it's just going to rip. And you're not going to lose your fingers or hand. Same reason for having no loose clothing. Okay, so we bring the speed up then. Still using the application towel. And what you do is you'll start feeling it biting and getting warm, which is basically the grit has broken down and it's no longer working anymore, and all that's happening is you're getting the friction from wax on wax. The owner's laughing in my ear. Sported beach peanut. Do you know what, Leona? I think you should start drinking again. Alright. Leona's, yeah, so it's Sported Beach Peanut, apparently. It's very, very Sported Beach. Now I'm going to bring the speed up again, and I'm going to get a clean paper towel now. and sorry, I'm just going to clean fresh piece of towel and just buff it off now, and you want to keep buffing it until you have nothing else left on the towel coming off. You want to get rid of all the wax residue that's left before you add your finish, because this is, as I said, this is a sanding paste. It's to replace sandpaper. It's not a finish, it's just foundation for any finishes. Have you composed yourself, Leona? Salted beach peanuts. Mmm. So look, we're getting clean now. There's very little coming off on the towel there now. And considering it's really, really punky, spalted peanut wood, it's not finishing too bad. That sounds like it should be a wood, peanut wood. Okay, so there you go, it's shiny. What happens is the Yorkshire grit tends to get in the punky bits and acts as a filler. It doesn't necessarily look nice. But as I said, I'm not going for super finish on this. I'm just demonstrating. And then you will get your finish of choice. I'm just going to go with good old Wood Wax 22. Again, it's from Chestnut. I am not affiliated at all by Chestnut. Just like to say that. It's just a product that I get on with. They are good. They're good finishes and they last a long time. I've had this pot for an incredibly long time and it's still just as soft. Yes. Okay, when it comes to Yorkshire Grit, Mike, yes, it's designed that you use the original first and then go to the microfine, unless you're working with acrylic. Really, the microfine was designed for acrylic and resin users to get that really fine shine that you do with resins. But if you're using it on wood, yes, go original then microfine, because you're building all the way up. Otherwise you're going to have to sand to probably 400, even more, and then use the microfine, because it's going to have to work hard to go from 240 to whatever it is, 2000 or whatever it is that it goes to. It's going to have to work extra hard, and I doubt it will work, especially on wood. Okay, so I've just put my wax on there, it's dried. I'm going to go up with a high speed and just buff that off. Now this isn't going to be a super finish, as I said, because it's really punky wood. And we just buff that off until it's really, really shiny. Because it's a candle holder and because it's going to be handled a lot, sometimes just a wax finish like that won't be enough, because the acids in people's hands, sweat and stuff like that over a small amount of time will take away any kind of basic wax finish. So you can get these I can never say this, Leona, I might need help. Carnacrystalline sticks, is that how you pronounce it? Carnacrystalline, yeah. So they're just a solid wax stick, and they're a more hardy wax. It goes off a lot harder and makes it a lot more user friendly. It can be used a lot without losing its shine. And basically the way you use this is, it's a hard wax stick. You use it on quite high speed, and you just get the friction of it melt in the stick, and you just rub it on really quickly into the areas. I'll do it this side so you can see. Into the areas where you want the wax, and the friction melts it on. You'll see it goes dull. That's it, you don't need a lot. And then you take your fresh paper towel again, and you just apply very little pressure. If you put a lot of pressure on it, you're going to get streaks of wax, and you just let the friction melt that wax that you've just put onto it really gently. And if you get wax build up on your paper, change to a new piece, because you don't want that kind of putting a big streak in your piece. And you just lightly rub it. Every time you get a wax build up, change to another new piece of towel, and just slowly buff that in, because you will get streaks with that stuff, because you're just rubbing wax on wax, wax on, wax off. And the idea is that you're just using the friction of the towel really to spread the melted wax across the surface of the whole piece. And that will be a more hardier finish for the likes of a candlestick or a goblet, or something that's going to be handled a lot. There you go. Now it looks pants because there's little holes there that are filled up with both Yorkshire grit and blue paper towel. But there you go. You get the idea. It's really punky wood. Okay. Then we are going to get our tool rest again. We're going to set it up. Let me go to camera 4. And then move this camera again over here. Any questions while I'm messing with cameras? We'll zoom. Okay, so we're going to part this off. And we're going to hope that we don't hit any screws. So tool rest about an inch away from the workpiece, because we're going to be using the parting tool again. Tool rest just below center. And we're going to get our parting tool. Because we've got quite a good angle on this tool rest, that gives us near enough, excuse me, the angle that we're going to need for cutting with this tool. Turn it on, we're going again about 1600, 1700. We're going to get the bevel rubbing on the workpiece, and then we're going to just lift the handle slightly, and we're going to start cutting in. And just raise the handle slowly as we cut in, and move the point of our parting tool in towards the center. Now, these tools don't like friction both sides. They get very grabby because they're wide in the center. So what you want to do is you want to make your cut around about the width of your blade plus a couple of millimeters, so that you've got a little bit of wiggle room. You're lifting the handle up and moving it towards the center of the spindle. Now, I just want to turn to top camera, cam 3, zoom in, if I can at all, it's quite zoomed as it is, probably losing picture quality with that camera. But what I want to demonstrate is you want to undercut. And what an undercut is, you're cutting in towards the center of your workpiece just very slightly. Think of it as kind of concaved at the bottom of your workpiece. And the reason why you're cutting it like this, as you're cutting in to this, you're going to work in just slightly towards the center of your piece. And what that does is it stops it from getting a belly in the center, so when you put it down on whatever counter you're going to be putting it on, it doesn't rock backwards and forwards, and it just sits on the outer edge of the piece. That's if you can. To start with, what you'll do is you'll probably find that you're not getting that, and you're not undercutting it enough. That comes with experience, and you can just sand it off. You can just sand the center out. And you want to start cutting. This is where you go one-handed. You want a good grip with your right hand. You want to reach over, make sure you've got no baggy sleeves. You want to just rest the spinning piece in your hand. You're not gripping it, because if you grip it, it's going to cause friction, it's going to get hot, and as you cut, it will just break away and come off into your hand. Turn that off. We've not hit any of the screws, thank God, and it's just left us with a little nubbity nub and a good clean cut. I'm not sure if that camera is showing that it's concave just into the center there, just slightly, and then you just sand that off. It sands really easy because it's punky punk. We can use this piece of 1 grit 60 grit that I have, and we can just sand that away. You can see how soft it is. There you go, that's gone. And that's it, folks. That is a simple tea light holder. That sits in there like that, nice and flush. And then we get our candle, just sits on there. Boom. I'll even light it for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matty. Happy birthday to you. It's Leona's son's birthday today. Wish him a happy birthday, folks. Matty is 11, is that right? Happy birthday, Matty. There you go. I'll blow it out for him. Let him make a wish. There you go. So that's it. That's a simple tea light holder. You can knock those out and you can give them away at Christmas. They're a nice little thing. And you can play with shape as much as you want. It's nubbity nub, punky punk. It's the Steve's Dictionary. Exactly. And you can glue, as I said, you can glue that in if you want. Right, how long have we been running, Leona? Do you know? Okay, well, we'll just quickly turn a candle stick. Just going to take the faceplate off this and put it onto another crappy piece of wood that I have over here. I think it's a piece of poplar that I have here. Excuse me while I mess about over here. Let me see, is it, what can I, what? Yes, I can move this over here, like so, and I can put this here, like so, and I can put it up here, like so. I love talking to myself, it's just fun. And go Control 5. And then you'll see me over here. Hello. zoom out a bit so it doesn't make you feel. There we go. So I'm just over here putting a thing just so that you don't feel left out, folks. Any questions regarding the little tea light holders, or anything to do with the lunacy of Steve TWYDELL turning live? Yes. Make a meetup is happening in 9 days, is it? 10 days. Make a meetup Island. Oh, I forgot to put that post up. I'll do it when I finished here. Sorry. Oops. Right. So, piece of wood. Crappy piece of poplar. But it is what it is. It'll do for demonstrazione. Screw that on here. Faceplate again. Am I in trouble, Leon? I think I'm in trouble, really. She's just not telling me. Alright, okay. Right. Oh, that's the wrong one. Little handy tip, folks. Don't try and put a Morse taper 1 into a Morse taper 2 hole. Doesn't work. Okay, so we're going to bring our tailstock up for this because we are quite wonky. And I'm going to, yes, right, there we go. This is going to be a wonky turn to start with because I didn't prep the wood as I should have, but hey ho, there you go. I've got a life outside of wood turning, you know. Right. I'm going to put the big tool rest on because we've got a wide piece on. This is going to spin fast to start with. Let me just get the tool rest out of the way because I need to bring my speed down. It's a safe enough piece anyway. We're going to go, yeah, about there. And we're just going to round this off, folks, just like we did with the blank last week. We're going to use the roughing gouge, the spindle roughing gouge. Tighten everything down. Spindle roughing gouge is this one. This is a 1-inch spindle roughing gouge, and it is for roughing down spindles, funny enough. Make sure that your tool rest is away from the piece. Give it a spin before you turn the lathe on. And we're just below centre. As I said, some people like it a bit lower. It's entirely up to you how you set it up. And we're going to go with. I'm going to move this camera back over here so that you can watch presentation of tool, as it were. Yeah. I was thinking that alright because it's on its maximum zoom, so I will fix that shortly. There you go. We're going to go to camera 5 anyway. While I'm doing this, while I'm roughing this. Okay, so again, we're going to hold the tool down. Because you can't ride the bevel when you're taking the corners off of a piece of wood, you just have to be very careful. You're still going to be using the cutting edge. You're keeping the handle down low, and like I said, you can use this tool straight across, or you can angle it slightly. When you're taking the corners off, you're better off maybe keeping it straight to start with as a learner. Turn as fast as you are comfortable with. and as fast as it is safe. So if it's really banging and wobbling, you know, lathes running and jumping about everywhere, obviously you're turning too fast. You need to bring the speed down until you have your piece of wood true. Present the tool, anchor. You want your feet about shoulder width apart. You want your right hand, if you're right-handed, gripping the tool very lightly. You don't need to grip it onto it so your white knuckle. Bring it into your body, left hand over the top, start the tool touching the wood, and then just slowly start swinging your hips left to right and taking the wood slowly. The more used to it you get, the faster you'll get, the more confident you'll get, and the more you'll take away faster. But for now, you're just doing little gentle rocks of the hip. You can go the whole length of the piece if you want. Some people like to go the whole length of the piece. I tend to kind of take sections away myself, but you will find people do take the whole length away. And again, you can turn it just slightly around 45 and you can use it that way once you've got the corners off. And once it gets a little bit more rounder, that's when you can start riding the bevel a little bit better. So you'll bring the tool down and it will start taking a lot more off, like so. And it'll be a better cut. One thing I didn't mention last week also is when you're working with a faceplate, always leave yourself not only the depth of the screws, but leave yourself thickness as well, that you're not going to run off and hit the faceplate with the tool. Always kind of leave the back end where the faceplate is, leave that as a good bit wider than the faceplate itself, because that way if you run off the end, you're not going to hit the faceplate. Just protects your tools. Hear that knocking, it's still not round. Turn the lathe off, bring this tool rest a little bit closer. And we can get the speed up a bit now the corners are missing. And you can get into cutting away all this waste wood. And while I'm getting this round, if you have any questions, please ask. That's what I'm here for. And this is where I'm going to leave my wide piece where the screws are, just to remind me that the screws are there. And just get the piece that I want round, not worry about the base part. Okay, well, seems like we're getting there now. Alright, we are round there now. So now what we want to do is just want to get a little bit of a nicer cut, make sure that we're the same width all the way along. And it'll be a slower cut, using the bevel, which will give us a cleaner cut. It won't be as rough. Taking our time with it. Because this tool can be used for roughing, but it can be a finesse tool too. You can get a nice finish with it when it's sharp. This one could do with a bit of a touch up, if I'm honest. There you go. And we're round, and we have a blank that's roughly where we want it. Any questions? Oh dear, I do these live feeds to get away from kids. Right. Okay, so we have our basic blank. We're going to do a candlestick. It's not going to be a super long candlestick because it's only a short piece of wood. I'll give you a measurement just so that you know. Our working piece is about 180 mil long, which is roughly 7 inches long, and our diameter is roughly about 80 mil, which is just over 3 inches round. Okay, so that's how big our working blank is. All right, this end, tailstock end, is a little bit wonky, so that's our next move. We're going to clean that off and square it up. Again, we're going to come in, hold the tool, present the tool to the tool rest, anchor ourselves, get our bevel rubbing on the piece of wood, raise the handle so it starts cutting, and then just bring it slowly in towards the centre, stopping at our live centre for now. We can clean that up afterwards, but for now we're just getting a nice flat top. It's always nice to start with a square blank. That sounds round. That sounds wrong. A square blank on a lathe, but you know what I mean. Nice and uniform. And then we'll decide where we're going to be parting off at this point as well. I'm going to go around about here. Oh, tool rest has loosened itself off. That's the trouble with some of these cheaper lathes. The cam on the tool rest can shake itself loose. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to, again, just mark where we're going to be cutting it and just cut down about 1/2 inch. And that gives us the size that we're going to be working with, and you can work out your proportions for your candlestick then. And that's when we go back to our gouge. Yeah, so I turned the tea light holder first, for those that joined and didn't see. Excuse me. That's dusty old wood, that is. So I made this tea light holder to start with, folks. That was the first part. And now we're just going to make a short kind of tea light. No, candlestick. A basic kind of shape. You know, you can do whatever shape you want with these. You can have them deep so that they hold the long candles. I'm not sure. I don't think I've got a long candle here. Excuse me. That dust really did get to me. Let me see if I ever... How tall am I? How tall does Joy think I am? Oh, I have a 1/2 candle here. Take a guess, Joy. So this is a bit of a candle that's broken, but do you know the long candles? You can bore these down and have them holding these. Again, you can get metal inserts for these, or you can use those trays and you can stick them in. We're just going to go a little bit for tonight, just because we're running short on time. But this is just literally to have fun with a bit of spindle turning. It's basic spindle turning for the beginner. Excuse me. You're not far off, Jen. I am 5'11½". I am 5'11½". I was just robbed that slight bit from 6 foot. So here we go. We're going to decide on what kind of top we're going to have to start with. I'm going to round it off. Let me go back over to here so you can look at my posture and the way I'm holding the tool. So I've anchored my tool on the tool rest. I've got my left hand over, and I'm supporting my right hand into my hip. I'm going to get the bevel just rubbing on the piece of wood, and I'm just going to twist my wrist and just get that cut. And again, we're just going to round that top lip over for now, and just do a little kind of push cut just to take the corner off. So we're just rounded for now. I'm going to decide what shape I'm going to go with a bit later on. So now what I want to do is I want to just sweep from a wide top, and we're going to go down, nice little stem, and then we're going to come back up again to the base. So we're going to bevel rubbing again, twist, and start cutting in. Not pushing hard, let the tool do the work. Okay, so we've got the start of the top showing. Now this is where you can get a little bit more aggressive. Again, you're going to just anchor the tool, and you can start just cutting in a little bit more aggressively and taking away some of the scrap wood. Now the other option you've got as well, rather than using the gouge, I would always say that for practice use the gouge, because you know, with spindle turning, that's the tool to use. But what you can do to remove a good bit of the bulk is you can go back to using your roughing gouge, and now that you've got an edge here, you can start anchoring and cutting deep into that just by doing a push cut. So you get your bevel, you're going to have about 1/4 of an inch of the blade into the piece, and you can start just peeling away a good amount by just doing a push cut. Holding the tool at 45, or you can near enough go straight up. And it's a really fast way of moving some material with the roughing gouge. And again, you can kind of really chop some of that away and start getting a rough shape before you refine it with your spindle gouge. And what you'll find is the piece of wood will start talking to you and telling you what shape it wants to be. Again, you can have fun with shape. Now, I'm going to put that away. We're going to go back to the spindle gouge. And you can start getting whatever shapes you want. Play with your beads and your coves. What you find is sometimes shapes will appear accidentally that you kind of like has just happened there for me. I kind of like the fact that that returns in there. Now remember not to make this stem, if you are going to be going in with the candle, remember not to make that stem too thin, because you're not going to be able to put your hole down through the centre for your candle. So remember to kind of keep that in mind when you're turning your stem. Again, I'm just riding the bevel, and now I'm going to go with a nice big cove on this. Watching my thickness. Always riding the bevel, having the bevel rubbing on the wood before you twist your wrist and get the cutting edge cutting on the wood. Always keep that rule with all the tools. You always want to ride the bevels. Okay, so again we're going to take away some of the bulk. We'll use the spindle gouge instead, and again you can get this cutting edge here and you can just use it as a push cut. Just like that. And when you're learning, you can play with presenting the tool and getting used to how it cuts. And that's why these beginner projects are great, because you can have fun with shape and how you use the tool and present it to the work. And you'll get used to riding the bevel, getting a very slight cut and reducing your sanding. Okay, so we'll go to the roughing gouge again, and we'll take away a lot of that bulk. Again, hand down, present the bevel, and then raise and push. That's as far as I want to go down here, because I want a sweeping base on it. And I'll bring this material all the way down to the same size spindle from here on. And like I say, you can do the refined stuff with the roughing gouge, but it takes practice. Again, you can ride the bevel just like using it as a large spindle gouge, like so. Okay, that's enough with the roughing gouge. We'll go back to the spindle gouge again. We'll finish this cove nicely. The one cut all the way up there. You can, like I say, you can go to your left hand and you can use this as a scraper either to get that. There's a little bump there that I got rid of. And now we can have some fun. We can maybe do, we'll come up here and we'll do a bead. As it transforms and as it goes into the cove, we'll have it coming from a bead. so. And we'll go with a V cut, as they call it, so it's just literally just, as you're looking down from the top of it, it looks like a V. You do that by using the bevel of the spindle gouge against the inner part and move the point to the centre on both directions, from both sides of the V. Just like that. And then we'll go with another small cove. Be aggressive to start with until you get down to where you want it to be. And it's just a demonstration of how, you know, the fun you can have just with spindle turning. Okay. Now let that come down to a half cove. Like so, and then I'm going to put another little bead here. And as long as you're rubbing your bevel, it should reduce the amount of catches you get. Another little bit bead here, just a small one. And then we'll do a cone curve, as I call it. There's probably another name for it, but from the bottom of the little small bead that I've put there. Just like that. And this is what I've been saying about shape. Don't overdo it, but make it, you know, interesting, rather than just a round piece of wood. Make it pleasing to the eye. You've got the tools to do it with the basic tools, so get used to doing it from the start. And then we're going to go with an angle from here to this part, and we'll do a V cut here as well. Just like that. And that's enough. I like that. It's a nice shape. And I might just have this just slightly curving in as well, so it's not. There you go. Just like that. Go. That's a nice shape. I'll move this camera back over here so you can have a look at it from the side view. Do. Big giant beetle. Is it the daddy long legs, was it? Or was it a beetle? Yeah, well, that big ass beetle won't be around very long if he shows his face again. Hashtag just saying. Yes, let me change camera. Thanks for the warning though, because I could have a gouge in my hand when he appears next time. The beetles have learnt not to crawl up Steve's leg because it doesn't end well for them. 5. There we go. So I'm not sure if you can see the shape of that. There you go. There you go. So it's a basic shape. You know, beads and coves. Typical kind of demonstration type stuff. There is a slight tear out here where I've transitioned from the V-cut to the cove, so I'm just going to go back there. I'm just going to take one slight cut back into that, blend it in, and that's taken away that tear out then. Okay, so that's ready for us to sand. I'm not going to do the sanding tonight, folks, because that's just, you know, it's sanding. Next, we are going to make the hole in the end. Any questions, Leona? No questions. They're all very quiet this evening. I don't know if that's a good thing. They're all probably thinking, geez, is he ever going to shut up? Right. So, the end of our candlestick. The thing we've got to remember is, when we're working on a long spindle, is that the further you get away from the faceplate or the chuck, the more vibration you're going to have. This piece is going to vibrate. That's why I didn't take too much down where I'm going to be parting it off, because if you went right down to about 1 inch thick, this thing's just going to vibrate a lot, so much in fact that it could just snap off and go flying. So to bore our hole big enough to hold our candle, we have the choice. Again, with this, I've left that wide enough that we could just use the parting tool, and we could put one of the brass things in the top again, and we can have a tea light in the top of that again. That's one option. Or we can bore a little bit deeper, and we can use one of these longer candles. And what happens is, you'll see if I change the camera to the top again, it adds length to the piece. So when you've got a lot, I mean, obviously if this was a full candle, it would add length to the piece and give it a better look, so the candle becomes part of the candlestick. Some people, and I've done it myself actually, I did it for my mother-in-law, you can actually turn designs in the side of the candle just to add to the rest of the piece. So you once you've finished your candlestick, before you part it off, you can put the candle into it so it's tight, and you could just very lightly use your spindle gouge, and you can just take little designs out the side of the candle so it matches the rest of the candlestick, and it gives it that extra little bit of look. But for now, yeah, we're just going to go as if we're putting one of these long, tall sallies in there. And we're going to clean off our wide area. Let me go back to the camera 4. We're going to clean off this wide part, this bit in the middle that was left from our live center. Our tool rest is just below center again. We're going to get our spindle gouge, turn on our lathe. We're going about 1600, and we're just going to start cleaning this away. Go to the edge and just very light cuts. Now what you can do is, as well, you can come into the center and you can do a pull cut just using the front edge, and it will vibrate. And this is where your screws in your faceplate are very important. You are relying on those Go down a little bit with the tool rest, just very slightly. You're relying on those screws to hold, and the wood being strong enough. Oh, we're just going to clean that off. You can hear it vibrating. I'm not sure if you can hear it vibrating through the mic. It's normal. You're not doing anything wrong if it is vibrating. You've got a long ass piece of wood sticking out from your spindle. There we go. So we'll just clean that off. And what you can do then, you have a choice. Let me take this live centre out again, because again I like my elbows. Again, you can start just cutting into the centre just by riding the bevel against the front edge and then just spinning the tool in. And you can start making like a cone. And now we've got the flat front on it and a slight divot in it. We can decide the width of our candle. Again, we're going to do it by measuring it. Our candle is, it's about 21 millimeters. So we're going to go about 10.5 from the center. I have a center point there already where I've turned, so go about there. That's going to be how much we need to take out. And you can cut in as deep as you want with it. Now, like I say, when you're working with a piece that's a long way away from the headstock, you don't want to do aggressive cuts. You don't want to go jabbing your tool in there too much. My tool rest is still just a little bit too high. There we go. And you want to just start cleaning that out just very carefully. You can do pull cuts. The pull cuts, if you do pull cuts, you're pulling the outside of the piece away. You're pushing it out the way, so you're putting a lot more pressure on the headstock. With the push cuts into the centre, it's very hard because this tailstock doesn't come off easy. If you can take the tailstock off, do it. With the push cuts, you're actually pushing towards the centre of the piece, and it can be a lot more comfortable to do. Get it as deep as you can with the spindle gouge. You're only going to get a cone shape to start with. Rubbing the butt bevel against the outside edge. Okay, and you can use your parting tool again. You'll have to reset your tool rest to come away from it. Right, there's nothing for it. I'm going to have to take the tailstock off. Sorry, it's getting in my way. There we go. Really doesn't come off very easy, but there you go. And we're going to use it. Again, you want the point of your parting tool to be about centre of the piece. And we're going to use it exactly the same way as we did with the last one. Okay? And we're just going to clean up that cone into a round hole. Very light touches, taking very small amounts away at a time. Not pushing in too hard. You need your tools sharp. The owner's gone very quiet. I think she's afraid to say anything in my ear in case I slip. Oh, you're on M&M's attack again, are you? Maltesers, nice. I do like those. Do you not find though, as you get older, the chocolate tastes sweeter and more sicklier? Ooh. Meow. There we go. So that's still a little bit tight. Now the idea of this is that you do want it on the tight side so it grips hold of the candle when you put it in. And what you can do to ensure that is you can funnel cut this so it's wide at the front face and just narrows slightly just by 0.5 millimeter. So as you push the candle in, it gets tight towards the bottom. Just like that. There we go. So you push that in and it holds the candle. You don't have to bother melting wax into the bottom of it, so it holds it tight. Just like that. Now you can leave it like that if you want, so it's flat on the top, or you could put a little bit of a shape into that. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to be sanding this, but I suppose just for the next couple of seconds I could just do that. Why not? We'll put a little, this is where I'll slip with the gouge now and completely mess the whole thing up. So you can put a little bit of a design into it. Most candlesticks on the top kind of have this cut look, where it has like a beaded part in the centre, like so. Just makes it more pleasing to the eye to look at the top of it. Again, I'm riding the bevel, taking very light cuts, moving to the centre. This is end grain as well, so end grain doesn't always like being cut. And I'm just going to make this into like a bead. There we go. Just round off that front edge. Just like that. There you go. It just makes the top look a little bit more pleasing to the eye. And that's it. That's your shaping. You then bring your tool rest back to, you sand it up obviously, and you bring your tool rest back to the position where it's a good distance from the piece, about 1 inch from the piece, and ready for using your parting tool again. Bring the speed up. And let me see what's the best. breaks through. Again, you're going to make your cut wide enough for your parting tool, and we're going to undercut all the way to the centre. Just going to round that bottom bit off there. Get to just a small part there, probably about 1/4 of an inch. Hand over the top, no loose clothing. One hand holding the parting tool, and just keep cutting until it breaks free, like that. There we go. One candlestick. Basic, but still pretty. Let me see if I can peel a bit away from this and get it to light as well. Any questions, Leona, or are you still stuffing your face? Andy wants me. Absolutely, yes, please do. I don't know if you want to give him the address that's in the no, give him the proper address. Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, Billy, don't share it around though. Could I ask you not to share it around unless I know the people you're sharing it to, if you don't mind? Thank you. Because I have family to think of. I'm just trying to make this into a candle again. I'm finding a bit of wick. This was a piece that I found lying around the floor at Christmas time. There we go. We've got to light it, folks. Otherwise, you know, you won't believe that it's a candle holder. I could just pretend it. There we go. Ave Maria, Ave Maria. There you go. Very angelic. One candlestick and one tea light. I'll light that again as well. Why not? Let's have a proper fire around all this sawdust. There we go, folks. What do you think? Isn't that cool? 2 beginner projects, learning beads and coves and a couple of V cuts there. What I will say is just get rid of the fire. What I will say is just have fun. Do some spindle turning. Get used to your tools. Control and 5 and zoom out because you don't want to see my nose hair. Yeah, get used to tool control. Make sure you've got good anchor, body positioning, feet shoulder width apart. Keep the handle into your waist, and just do that little flick of the wrist just to ride the bevel, and then just get the cutting edge cutting nicely. You don't want to dig that tool in because that's when you're going to get the catch. And if you don't ride the bevels and you just jab the cutting blades in, that's when you're going to get catches as well. That's it, guys. I know it's a bit of a long session. Probably close to 3 hours now, is it, Leona? Oh no, it's only 2¼ hours I'm running. Oh, that's not too bad. I thought I was running for a lot longer than that. I must have done the candlestick a bit quicker than I thought. Any questions before I call it a day, folks? Leona, do I have to mention anything that I've forgotten? You are my memory. Good, good, perfect. Thank you very much. This will be staying live, and I am editing the first beginner episode, and that I'll be uploading that to once it's edited. But I take my time with editing, and it'll go up when I'm ready. I don't like editing, that's why I don't do it. But that's pretty much it, folks. I'm going to be doing some work on the Patreon, and adding some little short videos and things. Andy, Steve, just to know picture quality is sound spot on. Thank you very much, Andy. Really appreciate that. I hope the feed's been good all the way through. I think I've ironed out the teething problems of YouTube's, and hopefully we've sorted that. Yeah, don't forget that Creator Bus is a go. I am now currently trying to save up spondoolies and raise cash to buy the bus, and once I get the bus here I can start working on it with upcycled materials and stuff like that, and I can start trying to fill it with tools and stuff. If you're a company and you want to sponsor the Creator Bus, please give me a shout. The info is down in the description there. I would really appreciate if you want to help me with the Creator Bus to help kids. It's all about kids. I'm going to be going around teaching kids how to use your tools if you're a company, so hashtag just saying. If you want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description. If you want to support the GoFundMe that has been set up on my behalf, thank you very much for setting that up. If you want to support me on that, then please do. Every euro, dollar, pound is going to help towards getting that bus and getting teaching kids. And yeah, super chats and stuff, I'm going to be playing with that and having fun with that next show as well. Facebook Live went a bit ying-tong this week, I must admit. It wasn't my fault. But hey, it happens sometimes. Family and life and all that gets in the way. But I am going to be doing a Sunday Night Live this weekend, definitely 100%. And it's just going to be a fun live turn-in where we can have a bit of crack. I am also going to exclusively tell you I'm working on a fundraiser, and it's going to be fun. It's not going to be an auction. I was thinking of doing an auction, you know, like a Make It Matter auction. That's not going to happen. But it is something that all of you can join in and have fun with. And if you've got video cameras and ways of setting up and going live, then I want to talk to you. So let me know if you're interested on helping me raise funds for the Creator Bus through live feed-in. But that's all I'm going to tell you for now. I have a fan-dabby-dozy idea that I'm going to be probably kicking out next week sometime. I'm working on it at the moment. I've just got to iron out a few bits and pieces. But until then, thank you very much, folks. Leona asked me when I finished last week why I didn't do the fork and banana thing. That's because I want these kind of a little bit more serious, because they are beginner series. But he is up there. He is there, look, in the wibbly wobbly goblet, and he is there for luck. It's just I want to finish these a little bit more professionally, if you know what I mean. But thank you very much, guys, for the super chats and for being here. I'm not sure on the numbers that we've had tonight. I think it's been up in the 20s anyway. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, before you leave, smash the like. It does help promote my videos. And also, the other thing that does help is not only sharing the videos when I am live. If you can share them out across your social medias, that really does help, because that will bring a bigger audience. But also, if you can leave after the show, if you leave a comment in the description, in the comments below, because if you've got something that you would like me to turn, if you've got an idea that you want to ask or whatever, stick it down there, because YouTube also takes note of the fact that people are commenting on videos, and that helps me too. I know that chat and stuff helps for the live, but once the video's live and not live any, once it's as a video and not as a live, then the description in the comments below really help me to promote the videos as well. So, and because I'm not putting out regular video content, that's the only way really I'm going to get it. So thank you very much. Let everybody know that's learning wood turning that these series are happening, and until then, I'll see you again. All right. I'm going to look a bit of a doofus now while I move my thing over here and go over here and then hit the stop stream button. Thanks, guys. Until next Tuesday. Not sure what I'm going to turn yet. Bit unsure, but it'll be good crack anyway. See you next time. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I do want to end it. Thanks.